Not going to get lied about.
Wow. In response, the Washington Post fact-checker Glenn Kessler today pointed out that Clinton did not call Sanders unqualified. Quote, Sanders is putting words in Clinton's mouth. She never said, quote, unquote, that he was not qualified to be president. He can't slam her for words she did not say. Well, I'm joined right now by Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today, and Democratic strategist Steve McMahon. I brought you guys in here to try to figure this out. The chief thing I think is going on here is that they both need to win New York.
It's important. It's important. And you know what? There's no Iowa nice in New York. New York is happy to have really rough and tumble politics, and that's what we're going to see because the stakes could not be higher for both of these.
Well, let's get back to my point before. We talked about before. Maybe you can't be as definitive on the air, but it seems to me if Hillary Clinton loses her home state, what happens?
If she loses her home state, it's not that mathematically somehow she can never get to a majority. It's that it could change the kind of calculation that Democratic leaders are making about how strong a candidate she would be.
And if he loses, is he still in the run or not? Does he have to knock her off?
Well, he's already not mathematically in a very good position. That would put him in a worse position. That doesn't mean he's going to get out. I think he stays in through to the end. But it means that she would be back on track after that big defeat.
So I take a bigger view. I think it's got that New York resonance. New York is the center of the media universe of the universe. I mean, everything bounds out of New York. If you play for a New York sports team, it's coming out of New York. And if Bernie wins New York, I think it's a blockbuster.
Well, it is a blockbuster, but
he's already ready to pass her nationally in the numbers.
Right, it is a blockbuster. There's no question about that. But there's also this delegate math that has an overwhelming advantage for Hillary Clinton, and that doesn't change whether he wins or not because of proportional representation rules. He will get huge momentum. There'll be enormous energy in his campaign. He'll raise probably another $50 million, and he'll be well funded. But that doesn't mean that these superdelegates who have known the Clintons for 25 years, who have worked with Hillary Clinton for a long time, and just met Bernie Sanders really this year, are going to flip. Absent some compelling reason.
The reason I think it's going to be the big one, the big enchilada. Hillary Clinton, starting at 2 or 3 days ago, after losing out in Wisconsin, has begun to realize she has to beat this guy. She can't play with him anymore. She can't hope he's going to go away. He ain't going away. And she jumped on the New York Daily News interview with him about how to get rid of the big banks, break up the big banks, and she's jumped on it and says this is an example. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's how you get the headlines. I'm starting to talk like Bernie. You got to have headlines. You got to have quotes in the air quotes. And she's saying, I did not say that.
Well, she did not say that.
Why doesn't she say that?
But here's the thing. If he hadn't done quote unquote, and if he hadn't said saying, he could be on more solid ground. If he had said suggesting, because she did suggest. She refused to say that he was qualified. She dodged that question over and over again and finally said it was up to the voters to determine.
Yeah, Morning Joe today, she wouldn't say it, but the whole heft of what she's saying is this guy's not what he claims to be. And, the low information voters falling for it is basically her argument.
There are a couple
that's
things.
Not a nice word to use, by the way, unless you're Trump.
Strategically, there are a couple things going on here. The first is, anytime we're talking about qualifications and experience, that benefits Hillary Clinton. Anytime Bernie Sanders is talking about that, that benefits Hillary Clinton. She won't say that he's unqualified.
Is she getting at his age?
Well, she's kind of just getting at the fact that he doesn't really have.
Is she getting at his age with unqualified?
I think she's getting at the fact that he's not. He was a
backbencher,
Democratic socialist. That he hasn't been.
He's not a Democrat.
He's from a small state. He hasn't done much. He doesn't really have a record. He doesn't have very many plans.
Compared to her record, she's been in the cabinet.
Why is she afraid to slam him like most politicians? They think somebody's weak. Trump sees somebody weak, he calls him Little Marco or Big Ears or something.
Well, you see the exit polls, and what's happening is she's getting destroyed with first-time voters, with young voters, and she needs all those people and their enthusiasm to come back in the general election. So she wants to, she's actually straddling, I think, this very nicely, because she says that what he said is silly, and it is silly. She's very qualified. But at the same time, she won't say that he's qualified. She says, let me put it another way, I would vote for him. So she's kind of triangulating this thing.
Yeah, I wonder whether she's been too coy with this thing, saying, I could beat a guy without beating him.
I think
I don't know how you beat somebody without beating him.
I think she didn't realize until recently how serious this challenge was. She thought it would go away by now.
This other party made the same mistake.
Right.
Republicans made the same mistake with Trump. They thought they could ignore him, he'd go away, or that Bernie would be a backbencher, never really come out front.
Not going away, and his supporters aren't shaken by the idea that delegate math doesn't work.
But what he needs to do...
Yes, that's right. They don't want to hear about these
numbers. But what he needs to do, though, is he needs to move this, as he has for the most of the primary, away from the question of experience and qualifications and over to the question of judgment, which was, I think, what he was trying to do there with his rhetorical quotes.
He's done that before.
I know, but fundamentally, if he's arguing about whether or not she's qualified, he's losing.
Yeah, but
if he's arguing about her judgment,
was her judgment right on Iraq?
That's exactly right.
Was her judgment right in taking the $60,000 from Goldman Sachs for speaking fees? Was that good
That's when he is at his. That's when he is at his best as a candidate. This thing about whether when he's arguing about her qualifications is crazy for him.
The beat goes on. Hillary Clinton today reacted to Sanders' attack on her qualifications for office in an interview on Today. Let's listen.
Came right out and said he doesn't think you're qualified to be president.
Well, that'll be up to the voters of New York and the other states that will be passing judgment in the weeks ahead. I think it's kind of a silly statement, but he's free to say whatever he chooses.
Is he qualified to be president?
Well, here's what I believe. I believe that voters will be looking at both of us, but I will take Bernie Sanders over Donald Trump or Ted Cruz anytime.
She's thinking November, right?
She should do exactly the same thing that he should do. Of course he's qualified to be president, but we have a totally different vision for where we should take this country.
Neither one of them do that.
I know.
But Hillary's afraid to say there's something wrong with the socialist view. Well, she doesn't want to offend people on the left. What's wrong with his view, if you ask her?
It's not about whether or not he has progressive views. He clearly does.
Well, what's wrong with the way you? How can she say, I don't like the way you're going to take the country?
He's qualified to be president. He's been in the Senate and the House for over 28 years. He's part of Washington, but he hasn't done the kinds of things. He doesn't have the kind of experience. He hasn't done this and this and this and this and this, which I have, and that's why I'd be a better choice.
You know what Bernie will say? Yeah, you've got experience. You took us into a stupid war.
Well, that's what he's going to say. That's what he's been saying.
Anyway, President Bill Clinton was in there. He was asked about Sanders' attack while he was campaigning today in Philly. Here's that exchange.
Any response to Bernie Sanders saying Hillary Clinton's not qualified? It's so silly it doesn't deserve a question. About what he said? Yeah. What's your response? Is she more qualified than he is? Is he qualified? I'm not sure if he's a qualified person to run for president in our primary since I've been voting. More than I was in '92. Do you think he's qualified? Yeah. No. I think that I will abide by what Hillary said today. We shouldn't be distracted by this. We need to talk about these people and their future. Thank you. That's what Hillary said.
Talk about pushy. That guy was right literally in his face, and Bill pulled the gallant number, right?
Yeah.
She's more qualified than I ever was.
Right.
You know, it's great. He did.
Right.
It's much better than lashing out. He looks at this and he says, she is so qualified, she is so ready, and why we can't put this guy away is absolutely beyond him, obviously.
And yet they haven't been able to put him away. And the fact is he generates more enthusiasm than she does.
Yeah.
7 out of 10 voters under 30 who have voted in the Democratic primary so far have supported him, not her. That is an amazing number, and it's a number she has to address, and she can't address it.
That's why she can't beat him down. That's why she can't smack him down. She absolutely needs those people, especially if, you know, if the Republicans nominate Trump, she might not need.
Okay, let's talk about this. Let's look how great it is for Bernie, though. He's Brooklyn. He's got the accent. He's got the manner, the big city ethnic manner. He's got it called. It's shtick, and it's great. I mean, the air quotes. He does all this. He's animated. He's got a passion. He puts on, I'm not demeaning it, a show.
He does.
Hillary Clinton doesn't.
Well, he did. It was
she does
classic
not put
Brooklyn.
on, you don't go see a Hillary Clinton speech to get excited. You go to maybe to learn some things. He's going back to Brooklyn. What, the debate's going to be in Brooklyn, maybe? He's got the Brooklyn thing around him. She's sort of in a revice. She's come to New York. She can say he left New York, I chose New York. But you know what? He's going to seem like the Mets. And she's going to look like the Yankees. It's going to be very, and she's Chappa against Brooklyn. Who wins that fight? Come on, Brooklyn wins that.
Bernie had his Brooklyn showing today. I mean, it was basically like, you think I'm stupid? You're stupider. And that's kind of what's going on right now.
I think it's Joe Pesci.
And that's sort of what's going on. It's like, she says I'm unqualified, she's unqualified. Let me tell you why.
I know what a token's for. He doesn't know what a token is.
Right.
He thinks they still use tokens. We're talking like this now. Anyway, thank you, Susan Page, and thank you, Steve McMahon. I think it's going to get more like this. Round one.